All right, let's jump right in and take a deep dive into hiring microservices developers. We're going to be looking at the essential FAQs pulled straight from the Microservices Developers Playbook guide by those awesome folks at theperfectdeveloper.com.
Sounds good.
You know, microservices are the name of the game for building applications that are scalable and flexible, applications that grow with your business, right?
Right.
But actually finding the right developers to build those applications, well, that could be a real headache.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It can feel like trying to find a needle in a haystack sometimes.
Definitely.
But fear not. We're here to break it all down and make it as simple as possible.
Love it.
In fact, if you're ready to kickstart your search right now, you can head over to theperfectdeveloper.com and try out their 5 questions tool.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's specifically designed to help you find your perfect developer match really quickly and efficiently.
Nice.
Now let's dig into some of those frequently asked questions, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, first things first. What do these developers actually do? Like day to day, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's more than just like, writing lines of code, right?
Right.
Microservices developers are kind of like architects, They're building this city of interconnected little applications.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, so they're the ones who design those APIs that let all these different services talk to each other, and they deploy them using all the cool tools like Docker and Kubernetes, and they're constantly making sure that all these individual pieces are working together in harmony as part of that larger system.
So it's a pretty specialized skill set for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But how do these developers, actually differ from other types of developers? Where do the lines get a little blurry?
I think the real key difference is this. It's their architectural mindset, right?
Okay.
They're not just focused on writing the code. They're thinking about scalability and modularity from the very beginning, which is it's super important for companies that are, expecting to grow really fast. And they're also, they're really fluent in all those cloud native technologies and containerization, and those skills are super hot right now. Everyone wants them.
Yeah, those are definitely buzzwords you hear all the time now.
For sure.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks.
Okay.
Let's talk about money, salary. What's the salary range for these, super sought after developers? I'm sure our listeners dying to know.
Oh, yeah. Everyone wants to know about the money, right?
Exactly.
So compensation is always a huge thing to consider, for sure. And the guide mentions a range of $110,000 to $150,000 per year in the US.
Okay.
But those numbers can definitely go way higher.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking sometimes even exceeding $200,000, especially for, those senior developers, those architects, in those really competitive tech hubs like San Francisco or New York.
Right, Silicon Valley.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's quite a spread. What kind of drives those higher salaries?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just location and experience, or are there specific niche skills within microservices that just command top dollar?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a mix of things, location, experience, of course, but having expertise in really specific cloud platforms, or being a master of these really complex architectural patterns,
I see.
That can definitely bump up your earning potential for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a pretty good idea now of the skills and the salary range.
Yeah.
But now comes the big question. How do you actually hire these developers?
Yeah. That's the next step.
Right. Do you go full-time, freelancer, maybe somewhere in between? What are the options out there?
Yeah, so the perfectdeveloper.com's guide, they actually outline a bunch of different hiring models, each one with, pros and cons.
Right.
So full-time employees, they offer more stability. They're really dedicated freelancers, they give you more flexibility.
Right.
And they often have really specific expertise.
Gotcha.
And then there are other things too, like part-time roles, building an in-house team, or even outsourcing. It really just depends on what you need.
So many options.
Yeah.
So how do you know which model is the right fit for you? What are some things our listeners should be thinking about?
Yeah, you got to think about what does your project actually need? What's your budget?
Right.
And how much collaboration do you really need?
Okay.
So for example, if you've got a short-term project with really clear requirements, a freelancer might be the perfect fit. But if you're starting something really big, something complex and long-term that needs a lot of ongoing collaboration, then you probably want to think about building an in-house team or bringing on a full-time developer,
Makes sense. All right. So let's say you figured out that perfect hiring model.
Right.
And you've got your pool of candidates ready to go. How do you actually assess their skills? How do you go beyond just like glancing at a resume and figure out if they can really thrive in this microservices world?
Yeah, that's where it gets real. You got to dig deeper than just like checking for, basic coding skills, right?
Okay, what do you mean?
You want to really understand, do they have experience with distributed systems? How comfortable are they with containerization technologies like Docker and Kubernetes?
Right.
And you want to really get a sense of, like, do they grasp the best practices of microservices? Do they get it?
So you're saying you should ask them like pointed questions about specific challenges they've faced in past projects.
Exactly. Instead of just asking like, hey, do you know Java? Or hey, do you know Python?
Right.
Get into the nitty gritty. Ask them, how would you handle data consistency across like multiple services? Or how would you implement a circuit breaker pattern in a distributed system?
Those are good ones.
Yeah, those kinds of questions, they really reveal their problem-solving skills and their architectural thinking, which are just essential for microservices development.
I love that.
Yeah.
So where do you actually find these developers? It can't just be like browsing the typical job boards, right?
I mean, the traditional ways like LinkedIn and job boards, they can definitely be helpful.
Sure.
But you shouldn't underestimate those niche platforms that focus on remote work or freelance talent.
Okay.
Because those platforms, they often attract these like highly specialized people who might not be, actively looking on the more mainstream sites.
Interesting. So those are definitely worth checking out.
For sure.
And of course, we've got to mention the perfectdeveloper.com.
Of course.
I've heard they have a really unique approach to connecting businesses with like top-tier talent, right?
Yeah, they use this like AI-powered matching system.
Right.
And they also have a human-led approach. So it's not just about, matching keywords on a resume. They really try to understand like a developer's skills, their experience, even their personality to make sure it's the right fit for both sides,
Like a matchmaking service.
Pretty much.
That's awesome. Well, we've covered a ton of ground here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners are ready for even more insights on how to find that perfect developer.
For sure.
So let's take a quick break to regroup.
Okay.
And we'll dive even deeper into some more specific aspects of this whole hiring process when we come back. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back and ready to dig even deeper into hiring those awesome microservices developers. We've talked about, finding those candidates and really assessing their technical skills.
Yeah.
But what about soft skills? How important are those in this whole picture?
Soft skills. Oh, they're super important, especially in a microservices environment,
Okay, why is that?
Because these developers, they're often working on these interconnected services as part of these bigger teams. So, being able to communicate clearly, being able to collaborate really well with others, knowing how to navigate those like tricky conflict situations.
Yeah.
That's all really important.
So how do you kind of gauge those skills during the interview process? Are there like specific questions you can ask to really uncover those hidden gems?
Yeah, definitely. You got to go beyond just those like basic technical questions, right?
Okay.
So, ask them about their experience working on like team projects. How do they handle disagreements? Or when like priorities clash?
Right.
And how do they explain those like complex technical concepts to people who aren't, super techie?
I see.
You want to really get a feel for like, how do they communicate? Can they put themselves in other people's shoes? Are they a team player?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you found that perfect candidate, the one that ticks all those boxes, technical skills, personality, everything.
The unicorn.
Right. Now it's time for the negotiation, right?
Yeah, the fun part.
How do you navigate that whole conversation, especially when you're dealing with those like potentially high salaries that we were talking about before?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to just be really open and clear.
Okay.
Be upfront about your budget, what the project's all about, and what the role actually involves.
Right.
But also, like, be open to hearing what the candidate wants, and be willing to negotiate a package that works for everyone.
Okay.
Remember, a skilled microservices developer, they're like gold.
Yeah.
So, investing in the right person, it's totally worth it.
That's a great point. It's an investment in your project's success, really.
Exactly.
All right. Let's fast forward a bit.
Okay.
You've made the hire, you've signed the contract, and your new microservices developer is like ready to hit the ground running.
Woohoo.
What does a good onboarding process look like? I mean, it's got to be more than just like handing them a laptop and saying good luck.
Oh, yeah. Onboarding is super important.
Okay.
You want to make sure they feel welcome. You want them to understand, like, the company culture, how you guys do things.
Right.
So make sure they have all the tools they need, introduce them to the team, maybe even find them a mentor who can, like, show them the ropes.
It's like creating that supportive environment where they can ask questions and learn and not feel, lost.
Exactly. And don't forget about documentation.
Oh, documentation.
That's super important.
Yeah.
Make sure they have clear guidelines on like coding standards, what's expected of them, and just, your overall approach to microservices.
Yeah.
That'll help them get up to speed quickly and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay, now we've mentioned the perfectdeveloper.com a few times.
Yeah.
Do they offer any resources to help with onboarding?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They actually help you through the whole process.
For real?
It's not just about finding the person. They help you with onboarding, and even beyond that, they
Right.
can even connect you with experienced mentors if you need that.
So it's like having a partner throughout the whole journey. That's really valuable, especially for companies that, maybe don't have a big HR department
Yeah, for sure.
or don't have a lot of experience with onboarding, tech people.
It takes a lot of the stress away.
All right, so let's talk about the long term. You've got your developer, they're onboarded, they're happy.
Yeah.
But things change, technology changes.
It moves fast.
What about professional development?
Yeah.
How do you make sure your developers are like staying up to date with all the latest trends and technologies?
Yeah, microservices is a constantly evolving field, right?
Yeah.
So, investing in training, sending them to conferences, workshops, even encouraging them to contribute to like open source projects. That's all part of creating this like culture of learning and growth,
It's a win-win for everybody, right?
Actually.
The developer grows, the company grows.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the technical skills, the hiring, the onboarding, the importance of those soft skills.
Yeah.
It feels like we've covered just about everything. What are like some key takeaways that you really want our listener to walk away with?
The main takeaway is this. Finding the right microservices developer, it's not about luck, It's about understanding what you need, having a plan, and knowing where to find the talent.
And using the right resources like the perfectdeveloper.com.
Oh, absolutely.
They can make that whole process so much smoother.
Yeah, they can help you find those like super in-demand developers, help you through hiring and onboarding, and they even offer support along the way, which is amazing.
Sounds like they've got you covered.
They do.
Now, before we wrap this whole thing up, I want to leave our listener with something to think about.
Okay, I like it.
What specific challenges are you facing right now in your microservices project? And how can everything we talked about today help you find that perfect developer to tackle those challenges head on?
That's a great question.
And remember, if you're ready to start building that dream team of microservices developers, head over to theperfectdeveloper.com and give their 5 questions tool a try.
It's super helpful.
It's a quick and easy way to connect with those talented folks and get your project moving in the right direction.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? From the unique skills those microservices developers need to the ins and outs of hiring and onboarding them.
We really have.
And we even touched on those soft skills. Those are so important.
Oh, for sure. Those soft skills can make or break a team.
Absolutely. But you know what? I want to talk to our listener directly for a minute.
Okay.
You've heard all about the demands of this role, those high salaries we talked about, and how crucial it is to find the right person.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It can be a bit daunting, especially if you're new to this whole world of microservices.
Oh, absolutely. It can seem pretty overwhelming at first.
But you know what I love about microservices?
What's that?
It's all about taking something complex and breaking it down into smaller, more manageable pieces.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, you're not tackling this massive monolithic structure all at once.
Exactly. So for someone just starting out, someone who's maybe thinking about a career in microservices development, where do they even begin? What advice would you give them?
I'd say focus on building a really solid foundation in those core concepts, like mastering a programming language, Java, Python, Go, those are all great.
Yeah.
And get really comfortable with those containerization tools, Docker, Kubernetes, those are your friends.
But it's not just about learning the tools, right?
No way.
It's about understanding why they exist, how they fit into the bigger picture.
You got it.
So explore those principles of distributed systems. Dive into API design and integration,
Yeah.
and get some hands-on experience with DevOps practices.
That's all super important.
It's about going beyond just writing code.
Exactly.
It's understanding that big picture, the architectural principles, and how collaborative microservices development really is.
You hit the nail on the head.
And the best way to really solidify that knowledge.
What do you think?
Build something. Create your own microservices project. Experiment with different technologies. Really get your hands dirty.
That's the best way to learn, by doing.
And don't be afraid to share your work, contribute to those open source projects, and engage with that amazing microservices community.
The community is so supportive, and there's always something new to learn from others.
Learning from others, asking those questions, participating in the community.
That's how you grow.
Couldn't agree more. And we can't forget, microservices is constantly evolving, right?
Oh yeah, it's always changing.
So embrace that continuous learning. Stay curious and never stop exploring those new ideas and approaches.
That's what will set you apart.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's that one key takeaway you want our listener to remember?
Finding the perfect microservices developer, or becoming one yourself, it's not some impossible dream. It starts with being really clear about what you need, having a smart strategy for learning, and being willing to embrace that collaborative spirit that makes microservices so special.
And remember, resources like the Microservices Developers Playbook Guide from theperfectdeveloper.com, they could be super helpful along the way.
Oh, absolutely. They've got a ton of great information and support to help you out.
So to our listener, whether you're a tech leader or just starting out on your microservices journey, remember that success comes from learning constantly, taking on those challenges, and never being afraid to ask for help.
You got it.
And if you're ready to make that search for the perfect microservices developer a whole lot easier,
Yeah.
head over to theperfectdeveloper.com and try out their 5 questions tool.
It's a great place to start.
It's a fantastic first step towards building that amazing team that can bring your vision to life.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.